Good evening and welcome to Northbeat. I'm Alyssa Mosier. We begin tonight in the Northwest Territories, where the Clichon and Yellowknives Dene First Nations are taking lead on an Arctic nation-building project after signing a Memorandum of Understanding today in Yellowknife. Tamara Merritt has more.
Drummers from the Clicho and Yellowknives Dene First Nations stood together and gave a prayer before the Memorandum of Understanding was signed, an example of the two nations coming together. The MOU signed today indicates a commitment from both nations to jointly lead the Arctic Economic Security Corridor project. The project is a proposed all-season road that connects the NWT to Grays Bay, Nunavut. The road would go through Clicho and YKDFN land and could create opportunities for community members.
We know that the corridor has potential to change transportation, economic activities in the north if the project advances. It will support jobs, skill training, and long-term contracts for our members and our businesses. These opportunities are worth exploring.
Before the project goes ahead, the two nations anticipate environmental studies, community engagement sessions, and starting working groups in both First Nations.
With the two Indigenous governments taking the lead together, we will make sure the project is right for our people, our citizens. That means the wellness of our people, the health of the land, our cultural way of life, are essential part of any decision we make of the project planning right from day one.
The two nations are looking to collaborate with the territorial and federal government on the project. The Arctic Security Corridor did not make Carney's initial list of nation-building projects. Tamara Merritt, CBC News, Yellowknife.
The Grand Chief of the Clichon government in the Northwest Territories is calling for a major shift in how winter caribou hunts are managed. Grand Chief Jackson Lafferty says it's time to consider a full pause on winter harvesting, not just for the Bathurst herd, but for all herds. The Bathurst population has dropped to just 3,600 animals, a 47% decline since 2022, and a stunning fall from the roughly 470,000 caribou counted in the 1980s. Right now, a mobile no-hunt zone protects the Bathurst herd while allowing harvesting on other herds. Lafferty says that's no longer enough, and he's proposing a territory-wide pause on winter caribou hunts starting in 2027. And we are in touch with Chief Lafferty about this, and we'll have an interview in the coming days here on Northbeat. In Nunavut, a 43-year-old man is facing more than 20 charges in connection with criminal offenses in Iqaluit. In a news release Friday, RCMP said they opened the investigation on November 6th after multiple reports of break-and-enters and thefts in the city over several months. The accused is facing 26 charges, including 13 counts of possession of a weapon, 6 counts of possessing property through crime, 1 count of breaking and entering, and 1 count of theft over $5,000. He's currently in custody and is set to appear in court on December 2nd. The city of Whitehorse is proposing its first rules for short-term rentals. Operators in residential zones would be limited to 1 rental per primary residence, and they'd also have to live on the property. As Isabella Calisi reports, owners are split on the changes.
As they continue to rise in popularity, the city of Whitehorse is proposing regulations on residential and commercial zone short-term rentals. According to the proposed regulations, short-term rentals in commercial zones can continue to operate as they were, with no limits on how many rentals are allowed per lot of land or how long a whole residence is rented. They may be subject to a commercial mills tax. Rentals in residential zones have to be the owner's primary residence and can only be 1 rental per lot, so someone's basement suite or the garden suite, but not both. And if you want to rent out your whole home, you can only do that for 6 months out of the year. This would mostly affect short-term rental owners who own multiple residential lots for full-time short-term rentals. Anson Zen has been a short-term rental operator in Whitehorse for 10 years. He says he owns 4 properties, 2 are in residential zones. He says these rentals are his main source of income, and he would need to shutter the business if the proposed regulations go through, and he says long-term rentals wouldn't be an option due to cost.
The money that we get from the regular rental is not enough to cover the mortgages and all the expenses. So, I don't think I can maintain the business if they pass the bylaw.
Laird Herbert is also a short-term rental owner, but with his property in a commercial zone. He thinks the proposed regulations are quite lenient and make the short-term rental market more fair by properly recognizing them as businesses.
We do operate within the zoning bylaw, and it has felt like those rules haven't been applied to others. And I think the city's right in trying to correct that. It's this disparity that also is tied to all these costs too, that as a legal commercial operator you have. So yeah, I'm very much in favor. I think we need clarity about where this commercial activity can operate.
These proposed regulations and other bylaw rewrites are up for discussion by Whitehorse residents. The public has until December 8th to weigh in on the matter. Isabella Clesi, CBC News, Whitehorse.
Well, if you're a parent, you know getting kids to school isn't always easy. But one school in Pond Inlet, Nunavut has found a way to keep students in class, and it's working. Bianca McEwen has the story.
Walking down the halls of Iqaluit Elementary School, one thing is clear to Principal Sandra Rutledge. Kids love it here.
This is the kids' second home. And, that makes them feel really good. They'll come down the hallway, they'll say, "Hey, Sandra," or "Hi, Carla." They'll high-five us.
She says the school has 302 students and an 85% attendance rate. That's 16% higher than the average rate in the Qikiqtani region last year, according to data CBC received from the Department of Education. Rutledge attributes the high attendance to making kids feel welcome the second they step through the door.
We have an excellent food program. So we have those tables that you see out in the foyer, very welcoming, inviting, and the students come every morning at 8 o'clock for breakfast. They'll get a healthy hot breakfast or a cold breakfast every single morning.
The school offers cultural classes, fun nights like movie nights, and 7 days a week of extracurricular activities. But attendance levels this high isn't the norm in the territory. Nunavut's Minister of Education, David Akiaguk, says this is because of various factors, including kids feeling unmotivated to attend. But he wants to fix this as a parent and a politician.
My plans is a lot of it is to do motivations and see what the trends are and what the department have been moving towards, and looking at what areas needs to be focused on. As a parent, I have some good ideas, but as a minister, I need to listen to the staff.
For Rutledge, she's now focused on reaching kids who currently don't attend school.
I really would like to go out for a day and drive around and talk to the students to show them what we offer. And maybe they just don't know any better, and that's okay. We just want them at our school, because if they're at our school, they're having fun, and they're making friends, and they're learning.
For schools wanting to follow in their footsteps, Rutledge advises to advertise the great things happening at the school and be patient. Changes like this take time. Bianca McEwen, CBC News, Iqaluit.
Changes could be coming to healthcare in Alberta that people traveling there for medical will want to know about. The Alberta government is introducing new legislation with sweeping changes to food safety and healthcare in the province, and it includes privatizing certain services. Natasha Reeb has the details.
The Alberta government is revamping the rules around several parts of the healthcare system, food safety and drug coverage for one, and it's introducing private options for surgeries. The changes are outlined in Bill 11, the Health Statutes Amendment Act, and are meant to modernize the system and reduce wait times. First, the province aims to bolster food safety by creating a specialized public health team to investigate food establishments. When it comes to drug coverage and payment, people with insurance programs will have to use those first, and the government would be the backup if needed. The most controversial part of the legislation paves the way for privatizing some medical procedures, like knee and hip replacements. The province calls it the dual practice model. Doctors can elect to do surgeries in both the public and private spheres. Health Minister Adriana LaGrange says the model doesn't include general family physicians, nor urgent things like cancer treatments and emergency surgeries. And she says they'll have safeguards in place to make sure public money isn't used for private services.
I also want to be extremely clear that there will be no reductions in publicly funded procedures or services, and no Albertan will ever have to pay out of pocket to see their family doctor or receive the medical care they need.
The province also hopes the changes will encourage more doctors and patients to stay in Alberta.
When an Albertan currently goes to another jurisdiction and has a surgery done privately, we don't pay for that. But we are responsible for aftercare. And all day long, I would prefer to have surgeons accredited here, approved here, performing surgeries on Albertans here.
But the ministers couldn't say how much it would cost Albertans willing to pay. The Canadian Medical Association says it believes Alberta's private care plan will actually add to wait times. And the Alberta Medical Association says, as far as it knows, the government hasn't done a proper business case or analysis to determine whether it will work. The bill is tabled in the legislature, and if passed, the government says there's a lot more work to do. They will consult the AMA and the College of Physicians and Surgeons and other health services in the coming months. They expect to finalize the details in the spring. Natasha Reeves, CBC News, Edmonton.
You may want to get your flu shot before traveling to Alberta this season. Health officials say there that the influenza is starting to surge, and hospitals are bracing for what could be a tough few months. The number of people that have tested positive for the flu in Alberta has more than tripled since the end of October, and 6 people have died so far from the flu in Alberta this season. The federal government says nearly 6 million Canadians aged 18 to 64 are now signed up for the Canadian Dental Care Plan. Federal Health Minister Marjorie Michel made the announcement in Montreal. The government's goal is to provide dental coverage for 9 million eligible Canadians. Michel also announced a $35 million fund to improve training for dental students at universities across Canada. More than 27,000 oral health providers are now part of the dental plan. It rolled out last year, and it's meant to cover Canadians who don't have private insurance and have an income of less than $90,000 a year. A swearing-in ceremony was held at the Yukon Arts Centre in Whitehorse on Saturday. It marks the official beginning of the Yukon Party's time in office. The CBC's Katrin Pilkington was there.
I, Currie Dixon, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty, King Charles III, his heirs and successors, according to law, so help me God.
Currie Dixon has officially been sworn in as the Yukon's 12th Premier, the first to be born here in the territory. In his first address on Saturday, the Premier gave few details on policy, but promised his new government's fundamental commitment is change.
Change in the way our healthcare system provides care for those who need it. Change in our education system to ensure that students and educators have the supports they need to thrive. Change in the structure of our economy to ensure that the private sector is the driver of our growth. Change in how we keep our communities safe and how we deliver justice. And change in how we ensure that Yukoners have access to housing.
In Dixon's new cabinet, we have Brad Cathers now acting as Minister of Health and Social Services. Wade Ischenko is the new Minister of Environment. Corey Belmore is Minister of Community Services and Minister responsible for the Yukon Lottery Commission. Linda Benoit is the new Minister of Highways and Public Works. Jen Gamer is the new Minister of Economic Development, Minister of Tourism and Culture, Minister of the Public Service Commission, and Minister responsible for the Yukon Liquor Corporation. Scott Kent is on Education, as well as Minister responsible for the Yukon Housing Corporation. And Ted Laking was selected to act as Minister of Energy, Mines and Resources.
I'm really looking forward to getting out there and representing Yukoners and helping get our private sector economy back on track.
Dixon selected Laura Lang to be the next Minister of Justice, among other portfolios.
I could not have been more thrilled with his belief in me and my capabilities and bringing a health and wellness lens to legislation. I believe that he knows that I take that very seriously as I do community development and well-being.
In a new sitting following the ceremony, Premier Dixon announced the first sitting will be just weeks away on December 8th. The first priority will be voting on the supplementary budget. Katrin Pilkington, CBC News, Whitehorse.
BC conservation officers are still searching for the 3 grizzlies involved in Thursday's attack on a school group in Bella Coola. Residents say the incident reflects years of increasing bear encounters in the Central Coast community. Officers have set up trail cameras and narrowed their search to a few kilometers around the 4-mile subdivision where the attack happened. Only 1 bear has been spotted in the past day, and it was well outside that area. 3 students and a teacher were hospitalized after the bear charged a group of about 20 grade 4 and 5 students and staff who were on a field trip and eating lunch at the time.
A lot of work goes into these, and these can be lengthy. The bears don't necessarily cooperate, but we're doing everything we can.
Not only physically, but mentally, you know, and the nation's just standing behind them, and that you know, that they're in our thoughts and prayers.
Conservation officers have since said they believe a mother bear with 2 cubs were involved in the attack. Speculation is growing around a report that a new Western oil pipeline is in the works. And while the Prime Minister says discussions are ongoing, opposition is already growing. The CBC's JP Tasker reports.
On a trip abroad, the Prime Minister speaking for the first time about negotiations at home for a new oil pipeline to northwest BC.
Those discussions are ongoing. They have been constructive. There is a prospect of an agreement. It's not yet finalized.
A source tells CBC News that agreement on Alberta's energy future is expected to be signed on Thursday, and that Mark Carney is open to approving a pipeline that carries crude oil to the BC coast, then on to points in Asia. The federal government is also weighing exemptions to the Trudeau-era BC oil tanker ban that blocks ships from carrying that product.
It just makes no sense to me that we're not at the table.
All of this is news to the BC Premier. David Eby says he's been left out of talks on a project that could run right through his province.
This project that just has no economic sense to it and is not being advanced by anyone other than a politician that, frankly, is in political trouble at home.
That's a shot at Smith, who is urging naysayers to get out of the way.
A lot of people wrap themselves in the flag talking about how much they support Canada and want to work together. And then when it comes right down to it, not everybody lives up to that commitment.
Some BC First Nations are also diametrically opposed, fearful a potential oil spill could ruin their pristine part of the province.
This is our home. We rely upon a healthy ocean to sustain our way of life, and adding oil tankers to this is just not something that we can support.
Still, Alberta's former premier says the risk is worth it, especially with Canada's economy under threat.
That would be generating something in the range of $25 billion of additional value. With the big trade challenges coming from south of the border, I think we have to do things like this.
If Ottawa gives this pipeline the green light, it would be another example of the Prime Minister doing a 180 on his predecessor's policies. Justin Trudeau pushed through the tanker ban and proposed an emissions cap on the oil and gas sector. Carney seems determined to go in a different direction. JP Tasker, CBC News, Ottawa.
A resident of Dawson Creek, BC, has caught the attention of the U.S. Air Force and Canadian National Defense, and it is not in a bad way. Matt Preprost explains.
This is a model of the Skylab space station, and this was the first U.S. space station that orbited Earth in the 1970s, right after the Apollo moon program.
Nick Proch has just put the finishing touches on his latest creation.
The BC space historian has been building specialized models like these for decades.
We've done work for a lot of private collectors, NASA, the United States Air Force, the Canadian Department of Defense. We did one project, SpaceX.
Now, with this new museum in Dawson Creek, he's sharing some of his work with the public. Inside an old auto shop storefront, a gallery of models and memorabilia fill the walls and display cases.
Morning, Matt. Some of my favorites, like this one that you're looking at right now, the Apollo 11 model, signed by Buzz Aldrin. And then up on top here, we should also notice this rocket here is a model of the Artemis rocket. And what's significant about that, particularly with Canadian history, is that is scheduled to launch currently in February of 2026. And it will carry a crew of 4 around the moon and back to Earth on a 10-day mission. And one of the crew members is a Canadian astronaut.
Proch designs each model from original engineering blueprints.
It's always nice to know the actual subject itself, and that gives you a better understanding when you actually put the model together.
He continues to add more pieces from Canadian history to this little museum in hopes of inspiring the next generation of space fans to build something of their own. Matt Preprost, CBC News, Dawson Creek.
The Klondike Institute of Art and Culture in Dawson City, Yukon, has been recognized with an award from the National Gallery of Canada. Kayak in Dawson City is this year's Lacey Prize winner. It's awarded to artist-run centers and community galleries to recognize their activities and impact on Canada. It also comes with a $50,000 prize.
Well, I think it's kind of just coming all into focus of how big of a deal it is. I mean, to be recognized by the National Gallery of Canada is a big honor, and the Lacey family and the National Gallery of Canada Foundation have been giving out this award for only 3 sessions now. It started in 2019, and they give it out every other year. So we're the 3rd ever recipient of this award, and being alongside the other organizations that have won the award is a real honor.
Kayak has yet to decide how it will spend the $50,000. The organization runs everything from film, arts, and publishing festivals to an artist in residence program, workshops, and art exhibitions. The George Black Ferry in Dawson City, Yukon has been out of the water since October 15th in anticipation for the winter freeze. But 6 weeks later, open water is still flowing on the Yukon River. That's not great news for people living in West Dawson who rely on the river freezing every year. George Moratis reports.
This is not a normal scene for late November in Dawson City. Open water flowing on the Yukon River. Yesterday, the temperature recorded at the Dawson Airport was 7 degrees above normal.
I don't know really what to make of it. Looking at historic data, obviously there have been warm weathers in the winter, but this seems to be increasing in frequency, which is a little concerning. Yeah, but I mean, it does save on firewood.
Cut eastbound is one of the 200 or so who live in West Dawson. He's hunkering down here while he waits for freeze up.
My birthday's always the same time of year, November 20th, but it's usually like minus 30 or colder. The river's usually crossable depending on different people's safety metrics by that time. And this year it was +1, so it was quite balmy.
And while eastbound is content where he is during this year's lengthy freeze, not everyone is. Every October, those that live in West Dawson have to make a choice. Stay across the river and hunker down until freeze up, or find a place to stay in town.
It'll freeze eventually, but this open lead in front of town is no fun. And also this taking forever
freeze is no fun.
No fun for Smith because unlike eastbound on the west side, he's staying in town because of job commitments while he waits for the river to freeze.
And we were thinking, backup plan. If we couldn't find a place, I would have just stayed in a hotel or something, and go stay at the pit or something. But then my partner's home with 2 little kids for, some unknown amount of time. Turns out it would have been pretty long. The ferry came out October 15th.
I know the B word is sensitive in this area, the bridge.
Oh, I'm a pro-bridger. I'll come out and say that. Personally, I don't speak for anyone, but yes, a bridge would be a positive thing.
Last year, the Yukon government's ice bridge opened to light vehicles on December 17th. The year before, there was no ice bridge. That's because, once again, it was too warm. George Moratis, CBC News, Whitehorse.
Well, before we let you go, you need to check out this spectacular new footage from NASA. The Northern Lights swirling above the Earth, captured from the International Space Station. The astronaut who shot this says she's still never seen the Aurora Borealis from the ground, but it's a frequent show up in space. Scientists say the Northern Lights are appearing more often lately because of what's known as a solar maximum. Right now, the sun is at the peak of its activity in an 11-year cycle. Well, that is it for Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, though, of course, you can head to our website, cbc.ca/north. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Alyssa Mosier. Have a good night.